Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Avakara Kamala Hare, Nama Kuta Shringa, Kalita Hiranyakashipu Hanu Bringa, Keshavadita Narari Rupa, Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakar.
Hare Krishna. I want to thank all the devotees for being here. We are happy that somehow or the other, by Krishna's arrangement, we are able to celebrate the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev via Zoom. It's a very new concept for us, and it's something that we have never done before. And I'm sure there are many, many temples who are actually going through what we are going through. So as we always say, it's always best to make the best of what we have. So we would like to ask one of the children, and I'm trying to see who I can get online. Suvrat, if you can sing up until 7:15, just the holy name, and Mother Rambhoru, who will be our special speaker for today, will get online. So can you unmute yourself, Suvrat, and if you can sing the holy name.
Yeah, Mati, that's good.
Thank you.
Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami iti namine.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vashatya Dishenarine.
Namaste Saraswati Devi
Gauravani
Pracharine
Nirvishesha
Nirvishesha
Paschatya Deshatharine.
Ananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda.
Jai Shri
Krishna
Chaitanya
Prabhu
Prabhu
Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita
Advaita
Gadadhara
Shivasadi Gauravinda
Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda.
Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda.
Jaya
Jai
Shri
Shri
Krishna
Chaitanya Prabhu
Prabhu
Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura
Govinda.
Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda.
Jaya Shri
Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Prabhu
Nityananda
Shri
Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi
Advaita
Gaura Bhaktavinda
Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama,
Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Haribol.
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna Krishna, Hare
Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama Rama, Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Haribo. Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama, Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare Hare, Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama
Rama
Hare
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 Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Shri Hare Radha Shri Hare Shri Radhe.
Jaya
Radha Shri
Shri
Hare
Hari
Radha,
Radha,
Hare Shri Radhe.
Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Shri Subhadra
Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Baladeva Jaya Shri Subhadra.
Jaya Gaudanita Jaya Gaudanita Adita Pavana Gaudanita
Jaya Gauranita, Jaya Gauranita, Adita Pavana Gauranita.
Jaya Nitai Maya Pushanda Nitai Maya Pushanda Goda Hari
Jaya Nitai Maya Purchandra,
Maya Purchandra
Chandra
Gaura
Gaura,
Hari.
Jaya Narshingare Jaya Narshingare Jaya Narshingare Jaya Narshingare
Jaya Narasimhadev, Jaya Narasimhadev, Narasimhadev, Jaya Narasimhadev.
Nitai Goda Hari Bo
Nitai Gaur,
Hari Bo
Nitai Gaur,
Nitai Goda Hari Bo
Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Nitai
Nitai
Gaura,
Gaur,
Hari
Hari
Bol.
Bol.
Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jagatguru Srila Prabhupada
Jaya
Prabhupada, Jaya
Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada.
Gopramanandi.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And we are happy that we have so many devotees online. And we are also happy that we are all here celebrating the appearance day of Lord Narasimhadev. As we all know that this is a very auspicious day. Many Vaishnavas actually fast on this day to break fast. And the time for breaking fast in our area for in terms of zone is around 8:40 p.m. That is the dusk for this area. So we welcome Mother Rambhoru. I'm trying to see if Mother Rambhoru is online. I will speak a little bit about her and then we'll quickly welcome the devotees. Mother Rambhoru is actually a very senior Prabhupada disciple, and we have seen her in our temple last year when she came for. She is the she's a mataji that came with a beautiful harp, and sadly we will not be able to. Mother Rambhoru, Haribol, there you are, Mother. I was just picking your glories. So Mother Rambhoru is the one who actually plays the harp beautifully, and we had the good fortune of actually listening to her. And before I hand the time over to her, I'm going to quickly welcome the devotees so that we all know and we can familiarize ourselves with each other, and we are not strangers to anybody. So we welcome Anil Prabhu. Thank you for joining us on the appearance day of Lord Narasimhadev, all the way from Reading. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I see someone with the number of 201. Can you introduce yourself, Prabhu, so we can welcome you to our group?
Hare Krishna Mataji, that's Sachi Devi Dasi and Nitya Mataji. Actually, they're
Hari Bol, wonderful. Thank
Hare
you so
Krishna.
much for joining. Love it. Very, very nice. Hare Krishna Mataji, how are you doing?
Hare Krishna. Fine.
Hari Bol.
Yeah, okay.
Very nice. And I also see Anuleka and her family and Hanchuman Prabhu. Thank you for joining. I see Asha Mataji. Thank you, Mother, for joining with us. Bhavya, one of our young youth who is very enthusiastic. Ishika is another young youth who's very enthusiastic. I see Vinod Prabhu's family along with Krish and Aradhya and Pranji. Thank you for joining. And Mamina Mataji all the way from York. Thank you for joining. I see Nagaraju Prabhu, and it's so nice to see you again online. I know that you was commenting on how much you enjoyed the class last Sunday by Vishnu Kada Prabhu. So you will be in a surprise for another wonderful class by Mother Rambhoru.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Prabhu. And I also see Nishit Prabhu and family. Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for joining. I see Nitya Gopal Prabhu and his family. I see Puru, another enthusiastic youth of ours. I see Padmana Prabhu and Prashna Mataji. Hari Bol just jumped in. Hare Krishna Prabhus. I see Rajesh Prabhu. Thank you for joining. Ram Babu, Shamarani Mataji, Siddharth Prabhu from Reading. Shrikant Prabhu, thank you for joining. Swana Goranga and his crew and both my daughters. So we have a very, I hope I didn't miss anybody. I didn't want to exclude anyone. But yep, oh, of course, they're Christian Prabhu. Wait, I did miss someone. Arvindaksham Prabhu from Allentown. And it's so nice to see him online. He's a very nice devotee that I've known for many, I think almost 20, 25 years. And he's a disciple of Bhakti Swami. So we're very happy to have him online, him and his wife, Purnamasi Mataji. And we're happy that we have so many devotees online. And Mother Rambhoru, it's all yours.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm just realizing that this is the day I was also initiated on Nishingadev's appearance date. So it's a double excitement for me. It's been a long time, 45 years ago. So all glories to Lord Nishingadev, the half man, half lion incarnation of Lord Krishna. As everybody probably knows, I don't know who's in your audience. You have about 30 people here, and I suspect they've all heard parts of it or all of the story, but this is a day when we remember the exciting story of Prahlad Maharaj. It's also a wonderful moment to remember the story of the Muslim magistrate Chand Kazi, who Lord Nishingadev appeared to during Lord Chaitanya's time. So I'm going to hope that we can talk about both of these stories. And if there's really time, I'll tell you a more modern day story. So anyway, let's just talk about this story. Most of us know that the word Hiranyakasipu literally means gold and soft cushions. And Hiranyakasipu was the ruler of a demoniac society. He was considered to be lust personified because his whole goal in life was to make a lot of wealth in order to ensure he had a lot of comfort. And he was so determined to enjoy his life that he was even willing to kill his son, Prahlad, in order to guarantee his own happiness. That sounds like a really ancient story, but there are people today who will do nothing short of killing their own children or abusing them in order to ensure their financial and material sense financial security and material sense gratification. So Hiranyakasipu, he understood that he could not enjoy his life fully unless he freed himself from the threat of death. Because we all know that despite all our attempts to enjoy a life of predictability and happiness, we all have to grow old and we have to get diseased and eventually we have to die. And this greatly spoils our ability to enjoy life, knowing that we could die at any moment. Most of us don't want to think about that because it spoils our happiness to think, oh my goodness, this is temporary and any moment I can die. So like us, Hiranyakasipu, he wanted to live forever. but he didn't know how to attain eternal life because he was a gross materialist. But he was thinking, if I perform a bunch of austerities, I will earn the right to live forever. So he stood up in his tippy toes for 125 years, and the flesh on his bones dried up and he became like a skeleton. And as a result of all his austerities, he became quite powerful. And we can practically see that when a person performs many austerities, even in their materialistic work, they may become very powerful or wealthy or beautiful or talented. But because all those attributes are material, they don't last. They don't go with you when you leave your body. So due to his austerities, Hiranyakasipu emanated this energy from his body that was disturbing the whole universe. So much so that the demigods started to pray to Lord Brahma, asking him to do something to stop Hiranyakasipu's austerities, because the whole creation was getting out of balance just by his practice of austerities. So Lord Brahma, out of compassion for the demigods, he went to Hiranyakasipu and he asked him, so you've been standing on your tippy toes for so many years. What on earth do you want? What are you looking for? You're working so hard, just fasting and standing there. I can't imagine being on my tiptoes that long. It's a long time. And Hiranyakasipu, he said, well, I want you to grant me eternal life. And Lord Brahma said, well, I'm not even eternal. Even though I might live 4,300,000 times, 1,000 times, 30 times, 12 times 2 years of life, that's a really long time. And that although he himself lived a very long time, he didn't have the power to live forever, nor did he have the power to grant Hiranyakasipu eternal life. So, you know, clever Hiranyakasipu, he was thinking, well, I'll trick Brahma into granting me eternal life by making him agree to so many different conditions. So one of the conditions was, grant me that I will not be killed in the daytime or the nighttime, and that I won't be killed in the land or in the air, and that I will not be killed by a man or a beast, and that I can't be killed by any weapon. So Lord Brahma agreed, yeah, okay, that I can grant. And so Hiranyakasipu, he was feeling very, very safe. He thought, okay, now I'm invincible. It's a kind of the story of modern day survivalist preppers. Sometimes people think that if they hoard tons of food and water, they're going to protect themselves from the risk of dying. And although that's not a bad thing, I'm also a bit of a hoarder, especially right now. We got extra toilet paper going on, and some food storage and some extra things. There's no harm in that. But when it becomes an obsession, and we're really thinking that all of those endeavors are going to finally protect us from death, that's illusion. And so Hiranyakasipu, he was an illusion because he thought, okay, now I'm immortal. So interestingly enough, what happened to Hiranyakasipu is that after he got these boons, he got these conditions granted, he became even more arrogant, and he became even more aggressive in his endeavors to conquer the material universe. And with each new victory, new conquering of something, increase of his power, the demigods, they became even more anxious. I'm thinking, I won't name him, but I'm thinking a little bit about our president right now. It's a little scary watching him wield his power around in sometimes what looks like it's kind of irresponsible and perhaps even harming people. And I'm wondering if Hiranyakasipu was alive today, what kind of president he might be. So over time, Hiranyakasipu, he has this son, and his son is named Prahlad, and he turns out to be a really great devotee of Krishna right from the beginning of his life. And as a small boy of 5 years old, Prahlad preached to his school friends to chant Krishna's holy name every time his teachers left the classroom. Now we can only imagine how it would be where one of our 5-year-old children start preaching to their friends about Krishna in their kindergarten or preschool. I know we're in America, and America prides itself for being inclusive and accepting of all kinds of cultural diversity. There's this underlying assumption, though, that a God-fearing, God-loving, upstanding person values the pursuit of financial prosperity and material comfort above everything else. That doesn't mean we shouldn't pursue, but if it's the supreme goal of life, then it becomes unhealthy. So, but Americans have this notion that if you are an upstanding person, that should be the goal of your life, to become financially independent and comfortable, and that's the end of it. That's the goal. So, in fact, it's considered to be really fanatical for a person to dedicate 100% of their time simply hearing, chanting, remembering, and serving the Supreme Lord. Now, I remember when I used to go on Harinam as a young devotee, in the new Hare Krishna movement, it was very simple. We didn't have large temples, and our deity worship was very, very simple. And we went out on the street a lot. It was a very important part of our practice. And I remember when we would be out on the street singing and chanting, with our kartals and our drums, people would roll down the windows of their car and they'd shout out, "Get a job!" They were so envious that they thought we were just using our time doing nothing. But they had no idea. It takes a lot of work to spread the holy name. It's not that working for the Lord is not work. It's clearly work. Every Brahmin is busy taking care of the Lord in some way. It's a lot of work. But they thought we were just, kind of wasting our time. And I also, in Ireland, when my husband and I were in Ireland, and we had several temples in Northern and Southern Ireland, I remember myself standing on the street with a group of devotees, and a crowd would gather, and they would kind of gather around, puzzled what we were doing. And I remember having my eyes closed while we were chanting, Hare Krishna, and I had my mouth open, and some drunk man came up while I was chanting with my eyes closed and my mouth open wide, and he spit right in my mouth. And I could taste the meat and alcohol from his saliva. It was so disgusting. Another time when I had my 3-year-old, my youngest son, he was with me on Harinam, and he had a few little plastic cows with him he was playing with while we were out on Sankirtan, Harinam. And someone from the crowd was so envious of us and also him that he grabbed those plastic cows right out of my son's hands, and they threw it on the ground and then stomped on them with their feet and crushed them. And seeing how envious this crowd was, my husband was alarmed, and he had me and my son go back to sit in the van so we would not be in danger. And a funny thing happened that 30 minutes later, I heard a knock on the van door. And when I opened the door, there was a woman standing there with a big bag of plastic cows in her hand. She had gone shopping to get some fresh cows for my son. And she was weeping and apologizing for the mean behavior of that man in the crowd who had stomped on my son's cows. And after we left, after that woman left, there was another, 15 minutes later, there was another knock at the door, and another person had come apologizing in embarrassment for his countrymen for being so mean, particularly to a child. And they also had another bag of plastic animals for my son. So I'm telling you this stories because we can see how the chanting of the holy name separates the demons from the devotees. A person who is envious of Krishna, he will really be repulsed and disgusted to hear devotees chanting. But a person who actually is pious and they have some goodness in their heart, they will be attracted. So in Kali Yuga, the demon and the devotee are not only in the same town, but the demon and the devotee is also within each of our hearts. So just like in the time of this story, things have not changed very much in terms of the thousands of years ago when Nishingadev appeared in the story of Prahlad. And today, it's still, we've got demons and devotees, demigods, Prabhupada used to call devotees. It's still going on, hasn't changed very much. So there are many pieces to this story of how Prahlad's teachers tried to keep him quiet in so many ways. But eventually, when Hiranyakasipu heard that Prahlad was glorifying the Lord in school, he demanded to know, how did Prahlad know Krishna? Who is this Krishna? He wondered, how did you know? We raised you here in the demonic palace. How could you have found out about Krishna, who, by the way, is the enemy of our kingdom? And what Hiranyakasipu didn't know was there was a battle, in the battle between the demigods and the demons many years before that. His mother had been taken into the custody of Narada Muni, and while she was pregnant with Prahlad. And while she was living in his ashram, Narada Muni used to daily tell her about Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and recite prayers and tell her stories. And even though Kayadu, Prahlad's mother, was not very good at listening, she didn't remember a whole lot of what Narada Muni was telling, Prahlad Maharaj, from within the womb, was hearing. And he internalized, or he absorbed, all of those stories. So when he took birth, right from the beginning of his life, Prahlad was a pure lover of God. And this story sets a very good example for all householders who want their children to be devotees. We can see from Prahlad's example, but not only Prahlad, but there's so many examples of the Mahajans who started in the womb or right when they took birth to be cultivated and nurtured as devotees. So if you really want to have Krishna conscious children, it's important to start early. Even before they're born. That means that even while a mother is pregnant, to have transcendental sound vibration going all the time, to be participating in kirtan, to read out loud. I know when I was pregnant with my two sons, I used to read all of Prabhupada's books out loud. And little by little, every day, by the time they were born, I had finished reading out loud to them Prabhupada's books. And I remember my older son, when he was in Mayapur Gurukul, he used to sleep in class. He was like, and he would be a little bored. And the teachers would call on him just to trick him, to kind of embarrass him, because they thought, well, he's sleeping. He hasn't listened to anything. But when they would call on him, he would remember somehow or other he was able to answer, not because he was systematically studying so much, but because he had heard Prabhupada's books. It was somewhere in his brain. And the teachers were really flabbergasted that he was able to understand or remember stories. And my son did not know how he remembered those things. So this is very powerful, what we're learning here in the life of Prahlad, how powerful it is for the child in the womb, for them to be in an environment of pure transcendental sound vibration. So Hiranyakasipu, he was a materialistic person, and he was envious of his pure devotee son. And when he asked Prahlad where his Krishna was, Prahlad said, well, Krishna's everywhere, but because you are so fully absorbed in materialistic pursuits, you cannot possibly understand how he is everywhere. You can't see him, although he's right in front of you all the time. And this is the message of every Mahajan descending in our disciplic succession, that unless a person gives up their absorption in materialistic pursuits, which includes all forms of gross sense gratification like meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, alcohol, coffee, tea, cigarettes, caffeine, and gambling, and makes loving God their goal of life, they won't be able to understand or see how Krishna is eternally in relationship with them, because Krishna only reveals himself to those who take shelter of him. So it's kind of this open secret. It's this little mystical process that's kind of like a curtain. Maya is like a curtain that covers our consciousness. But when we pray to Krishna and we ask for guidance and we ask for shelter, gradually this illusion comes up and we start to see things as they are. But we have to pay the price of being humble and honest with ourselves and also with Krishna. So Krishna can't be conceived of by our material intelligence. We can't jump up and try with some kind of material, mundane intelligence figure it out by ourselves, but we can perceive God if he chooses to reveal himself. And he will only reveal himself to us if we are sincerely desire to love and serve him. So that's the price we pay to get a darshan of Krishna. So we can't demand God to show himself. We can't even demand to be able to see the President of the United States face to face unless he calls for us and wants to see us. So what to speak of demanding to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bahunam Janmanam Ante, Janavam Mam Prapadyate, Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabhaha. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. And Hiranyakasipu's intelligence had been stolen because he was worshiping a demigod with some desire to gratify himself. And we may think, well, particularly in the Western countries, nobody worships demigods today. That's a thing of the past. I mean, Westerners, we don't have real experience of that. But if you look around you, you will see how enamored people are with the demigod-like superpowers in our world today. People who have a few attributes of Krishna, like wealth, fame, knowledge, beauty, renunciation, and strength, like politicians and religious leaders and movie actors, wrestlers, scholars, wealth moguls like Warren Buffett or Bill Gates, and even great philanthropists like Mother Teresa. So these are powerful persons of our time who promise materialistic people that they can become materially successful without surrendering to God. They promise to create a kingdom of God without God just by their own material intelligence and their material endeavors. So in some ways, they're kind of demigods. These wealthy moguls and beautiful actors they may have fame, beauty, and wealth. Those are three attributes of Krishna. So they're powerful people. They're very attractive. And interestingly enough, if you look at people, they worship them in some ways like demigods, thinking that if I worship them and honor them, maybe all of their attributes will rub off on me. So we're very impressionable to worshiping and honoring people in the material world who exhibit some kind of power like Krishna. So sometimes we have the notion that a demon is materially ugly. In Prabhupada's books, the painters have made, Hiranyakasipu look very ugly, and Ravana looks very ugly, with fangs and sharp nails, and maybe they have a deformed and ugly face. But in fact, many demonic people appear to have it all together. They may be beautiful people. They may be very strong and healthy, and they have it together, and it looks like they have their life all figured out. They don't look like monsters exactly, and that's why it's so confusing. And one of the things about modern demons is that they've learned how to use the laws of the material world to their advantage. They have learned how to become materially successful without giving any credit to God. They do not acknowledge that the source of the material abilities is Krishna. So they're kind of ungrateful. They don't think to offer their personal strength, beauty, knowledge, wealth, fame, renunciation back to God to say thank you in reciprocation to everything he's given to them. So that's really important. Nothing that we have, no ability that we have is possible unless Krishna grants it to us. And so for us to assume that we have accomplished anything on our own without Krishna's mercy is an incredible arrogance. And Hiranyakasipu, he was personified arrogance. And materialistic people typically, they become proud of themselves and they think they are the supreme doer. And in this way, they become demons who are actually repulsed by the notion of a God that's greater than themselves. It's actually just the whole thought. If you use the word God, a lot of people get really turned off. They're happy to talk about energy or light or something cosmic force, because it's impersonal. But to think in terms of a supreme being that is actually a person who has provided so much for us and that we can say thank you to and be in relationship to is repulsive to a lot of people. So in the same way, Hiranyakasipu, he was so disgusted with Prahlad. I mean, he became angry at Prahlad just because he was worshiping Krishna as the supreme person. Hiranyakasipu became so angry that he ordered his soldiers to throw Prahlad into a circle of cannibals, some kind of dungeon with a bunch of man-eaters. But Prahlad, he started to chant the holy name, and the cannibals were unable to harm him. Then Hiranyakasipu ordered that Prahlad be thrown into a pot of boiling oil. But because Prahlad continued to chant Hare Krishna, he was unharmed. And then he was taken to some small island where Prahlad had to endure some kind of huge storms. But because he took shelter of the holy name, he was protected from all harm. And after seeing that none of these things could kill Prahlad, Hiranyakasipu threw him off the top of a cliff and had an elephant trample him underfoot. And then he threw him into a pit of poisonous snakes. And even he poisoned Prahlad's food. But because Prahlad offered his food to Krishna, he was not harmed by the poison. And after not being able to destroy Prahlad in so many ways, Hiranyakasipu demanded to know, where did Prahlad get his superhuman power? And Prahlad, he was so innocent, he was not even angry that his father had done all these terrible abusive things. Today, you would lock up a father if he was doing all those things. That would be child abuse. And Prahlad said to him that, well, Father, you get your power from the same place that I get my power the same place you get your power. We all get our power from God. And then Hiranyakasipu demanded to know, where is your God that gives you so much power? And even though Hiranyakasipu was so arrogant and demanding, Prahlad, he did not become defensive. Now, if it were any of us, we would be already pretty upset. First of all, for being abused so terribly. And then, we would be defending ourselves or probably saying mean things back to Hiranyakasipu. But not Prahlad. He was not defensive. He answered him in a very kind and compassionate way and explained to him that God is everywhere, even within your own heart. Although Hiranyakasipu just could not get it. He was so proud, he couldn't imagine that the supreme being was in his own heart. So, because Hiranyakasipu didn't get it, he started pointing to things, demanding if Krishna was there. He would say, point to this thing, is your Krishna in this thing and that thing and that? And Prahlad would say, yes, Krishna is everywhere. And finally he pointed to this pillar. And he said, well, is your God in this pillar? And Prahlad said, of course, my Lord is in this pillar. So Hiranyakasipu, as the story goes, he takes his mace and he smashes the pillar, and Lord Nrsimhadev, the half-man, half-lion incarnation of Krishna, came out from the pillar and threw Hiranyakasipu on his lap and ripped out his intestines. I'm sure all of you have, probably in the temple, there's a beautiful picture of this kind of bloody garland of intestines. People, my friends who see it, who are not devotees, think it's a really ghastly, wow, we're worshiping such a picture. They don't understand how that could be beautiful to a devotee. And in this way, because he was killed on his lap and he was killed by the fingernails of Lord Nrsimhadev, he maintained all the conditions that Brahma agreed to in terms of his not being killed in the daytime or nighttime by a man or a beast, or on the land or in the air, and so on, because he was at the threshold of the palace. He was on a lap. He wasn't on the land or the air. He was not killed by a weapon, but by the nails of the Lord, and so on. So that is a beautiful story of Lord Nrsimhadev. Ki Jai. So I want to just tell a bit, kind of fast forward us to the time of Lord Chaitanya, because it helps us see how Krishna is appearing in different ages, the same Supreme Personality. And and uh, this is like 500 years ago. So it's really in our recent history that Lord Nishingadeva appeared again in a time in West Bengal in Navadvip. And you all probably know the story too, but I love to tell it, of the story of Chand Kazi, who was the magistrate of Navadvip during Lord Chaitanya's time. And he was a very devout and strict Muslim who was well versed in the Quran. And he kept laws and orders for the ruler, I guess, of all of India, named Hussein Shah. And like Hiranyakasipu, Hussein Shah was a demoniac ruler who forbid Vaishnavas to get together and chant the holy name. And like Prahlad during his time, the devotees of this time did not obey the Qazi's order not to gather and chant. They would do it anyway. So Chand Kazi and his soldiers would go to the houses where devotees were gathered and they chant. They would break their mridangas and take all their instruments and threaten to imprison them and convert them all to Islam if they didn't stop chanting. So many of the atheists would take sides with the Kazi, and they would say things like, there are no Vedic conjunctions that say people should sing loudly the names of God. God's name should be chanted silently within the mind, and these devotees should be imprisoned for their transgressing the Vedas. And when I read that, I thought, that's kind of true in the West as well. A lot of people they think it's silly to chant God's names, that meditation should be done silently. It's very, very popular now for people to, do a lot of silent meditation. And when we say, well, no, the meditation is transcendental sound vibration, it's so surprising to them because, they understand that real spirituality is something silent and filled with light. Of course, we know that's the Brahmajyoti realization, Brahman realization, but it's interesting that back in Lord Chaitanya's age, that was the same idea, but by most people that, you shouldn't be singing, you should be just silently meditating. So the devotees, they went back after the Qazi broke into their houses and broke their drums and told them they better stop or we're putting you in prison. They went to Lord Chaitanya and they said that this had happened. And then they had stopped chanting because they were afraid of the Qazi and they were afraid that the soldiers would arrest them. And when Lord Chaitanya heard that someone was trying to stop the Sankirtan movement, he became really angry. And he told all the Vaishnavas to go and get everyone and assemble. And we are going to have a big kirtan party all throughout Navadvip. So in defiance, this was the first civil disobedience. Some people think Gandhi was the first person to do that, but actually it was Lord Chaitanya to engage in this kind of nonviolent civil disobedience. And so Lord Chaitanya said, we're going to take our kirtan party to the Qazi's own palace and we're going to burn it down. He was so angry. And the Lord told all the devotees, now bring torches with you. So they all got really excited. And the Lord was in front of the kirtan party and he led this massive gathering of devotees who chanted the holy names as they made their way to the Qazi's palace. And this is the first historical record ever of a public Sankirtan gathering, is this moment in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. So as this big Sankirtan party approached the Qazi's palace, the Qazi could see, he could hear all of them coming. There must have been thousands of devotees. And he could hear them coming and he could see, because they were all carrying torches and they were singing so loudly that he could see from his palace that they were coming towards him. And he became overwhelmed with fear. He was just so frightened. And he could hear that above all the kirtan, he could hear Lord Chaitanya's angry voice booming, saying, where is that rascal Qazi? I have come into this world to spread the congregational chanting of the holy names. And if anyone tries to stop me, I will annihilate them. Yet if the most lowly of sinners takes part in this chanting, I shall remember him and I shall save them. So the Qazi started to shake and tremble. He was so scared. He ran back inside his palace. And when the kirtan party finally got to his palace, the devotees started to destroy his gardens and, pull at the doors and the wall, the windows, pulling things off. And then when Lord Chaitanya arrived, he called the Qazi to come out of his palace and talk. He said, I know you're in there. Come out and talk to me. And the Qazi appeared, and he tried in so many ways to pacify Lord Chaitanya. Apparently they had some history, ancestral history, tribal history together, some relations a few generations back. And then the Lord sat down and he defeated the Qazi in a philosophical debate and warned him that meat eaters will face many thousands of years in hell for their sin of eating cow flesh. And the Qazi admitted that what Lord Chaitanya had said was true, saying that the Muslim scriptures were only written recently, but he was obliged to follow them because of his position and community affiliation. So he admitted, yes, the Quran is not complete. It's just a new scripture, and I know that your scriptures are more enlightening and more deep. But I'm kind of stuck in my social position as the Qazi, and I'm in a community where I have to abide by the norms, the cultural norms. But Lord Chaitanya, he was very merciful to Qazi, the Chand Qazi, and he said, until recently, you used to send your soldiers to stop the congregational chanting of the holy names. But tonight you did not try to stop us. What is the reason for that? And then the Qazi, he told the Lord that after he and his men had forbid the congregational chanting at Srivas Thakur's house, he had gone home and had a terrible dream of a being with a human body and a face of a lion, who had pierced his chest with his sharp nails while roaring and laughing fiercely. And while this being was gnashing his teeth, he was telling the Qazi, I shall immediately rip open your chest, just as you broke the Mridanga drum. And because you have forbidden the performance of my congregational chanting of the holy names, I must destroy you. So when this being, this half man, half lion, saw me so afraid, he said, I have appeared to you to teach you a lesson, because you never created a very big disturbance. I will be merciful unto you. But if you do ever stop the congregational chanting of the holy names again, I will not be so tolerant. I will kill you, your entire family, and all the meat eaters in the place. And then the lion left. But you can still see the marks of his nails on my chest. So he opened his shirt and showed the devotees. And the devotees were so amazed to see the nail marks on the Qazi's chest. They realized that this lion was none other than Lord Nishingadev. Then the Qazi said, on that same night, my soldiers told me that whenever one of them tried to stop the kirtan, their beards would burst into flames. So I told them to go home and forget about stopping the kirtan. And then the Qazi revealed his heart to Lord Chaitanya, saying, I know you are Narayan, the god of the Hindus. And Lord Chaitanya smiled and said, the chanting of the holy name from your mouth has nullified the reactions of all your sinful activities. And the Qazi fell down and touched the Lord's lotus feet, crying. And he prayed, only by your mercy have my bad intentions vanished. May my devotion always be fixed on you. Then Lord Chaitanya said, you must promise that the Sankirtan movement will never be stopped, at least within the district of Nadia. And the Qazi promised never to stop the Harinam Sankirtan movement again. So even today, that's a law in Mayapur, that even though there's a lot of Muslims living in Mayapur, the devotees have been given this sanction. They have upheld that, allowing them to chant the holy name in congregation. So I have a personal story about Nishingadev I can tell, but I don't know, I'm aware of the time. We're almost 8 o'clock, and I don't know if you want to spend the next half hour, discussing. That was a lot there. And I'm wondering if anybody has any questions or comments or reflections about this amazing story. What do you think?
If anyone has questions, if you can please unmute yourself, ask the question, and go back. That way there's no feedback. We are hearing the answer from Mataji.
I've kind of lost the, let's see, where am I? Oh, there you are. Just a reflection, maybe. If, we may not have a question. It was kind of a, there's not a lot of questions. They're pretty simple stories, right? You better
Well,
not. You better not offend Lord Chaitanya. You're really in trouble. You're really in trouble.
Mother, I have a question. Thank you so much for a wonderful class. It's always nice to hear the story of Lord Nrsingadev. Actually, the appearance day of Lord Nrsingadev is one of my favorite festivals.
Yeah.
The main reason I think is because when I heard this lecture many times, but when the first time when I heard this lecture given by my spiritual master in Gita Nagari in the early 90s, he described it in such a way where it really, till today, I remember his words so clearly, where he would say that we have to Lord Nrsingadev to rip apart our mind and remove all the narthas, all the stuff, the way, Lord Nrsingadev ripped open the abdomen of Hiranyakasipu and all that. So that really stayed with me for a long, long time. And so I thank you for really sharing such a beautiful story. But I have a question, Mother, is how can we really sincerely have full faith in the holy name, the way Prahlad Maharaj really had full faith in the Lord?
How can we have full faith? Well, that's a really good question. Thank you. Well, I think that's probably answerable by each one of us personally, In my personal experience, that my faith is something that you test by becoming faithful. What it mean when you have faith, it means to do something, be faithful to your chanting, to the deities, to the Vaishnava Sangha. That's what it means to have faith, is you're a faithful person. You do something regularly and again, because even though it might be blind faith in the beginning, you have faith in the text. There's 5 angas that will help us develop love. But what I have found, and especially with devotees who are all the time on the street, or they're by themselves and they're trying to bring Krishna consciousness to people who really think they're nuts, is to take risks. It's when we take risks to try and do something creative, or maybe something that's never been done before or never been done by us, maybe in our work. Like if we go to work and we are surrounded by non-devotees, we may try to bring a little something to them and pray about an idea, and then we do something. And we don't know it's going to work or not. They may laugh at us. They may just spit on us. They may, make fun of us that we're bringing some cookies. And we to us, that's a big deal, because they're offered to Krishna. Now they just see it as a cookie. And oh, isn't that sentimental, and isn't that sweet? But when we take a risk, and Krishna then reciprocates with us, that makes our faith stronger. Then our doubts go away. It's a little bit like being in the dark with a flashlight. If you're in the dark with a flashlight, how far does the light go? It goes maybe, it's like a half moon size. You're in the pitch dark, you have a little flashlight, and it maybe goes 4 feet in front of you. That's all it will shine. But if you step into that light, what happens? What happens? If I step into where my light is and I'm holding the flashlight, what happens?
You're visible.
Yeah, but the light goes further, because now I've stepped into the light, right?
Okay.
So that's the point, is that Krishna may give you a little idea. Like I had this idea last June. I had this idea, before I retire and go sit down and chant 100 rounds a day and live like a sannyasi, I needed to teach what I had learned as a professional chaplain. So I got this idea, and I was so doubtful. I thought, nobody needs somebody that, we need more chanting and reading and hearing. We don't need somebody to teach all this stuff. So I took that idea, and I started to consult with different God brothers and God sisters. What do you think? I was doubtful. I had a lot of doubts. everybody said, yeah, we need this a lot. You need to do that. Oh no, I don't really want to do it. It's a lot of work to start something new, and people might, you know how people are when you do something new. They're always going, yeah, and criticizing you, and you think, oh, I don't want to set myself up for that. I'm too old for that. But they all said, yeah, you have to do it. I mean, you're the only one who knows these things. You got to teach it. So come Janmashtami, after mantling around for 3 months, with my doubts, fasting is a very good way to get your mind focused. I decided just start. I had no idea how this thing was going to unfold. Just start it. Krishna's given you an idea. You have to do it before you die. Just start. And it's like this flashlight. You have to step into the light. You're in the dark. You're scared. You don't know what's beyond the light. You step into that light, and the light shines further. And then you just step a little bit further into the light, and again. And so it's revealing itself. Krishna is revealing himself as you baby step forward into what you know. So you can only move forward to that degree that you know something. You might not only know this much. So you behave and you live on that much knowledge. And when you do that, Krishna gives you more knowledge. And gradually the little puzzle pieces come together. And so to me, it's really about starting where you are and asking yourself, what do I know is true about Krishna? And then do that much. When I first moved here 2 years ago, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm with my 92-year-old mom and dad, and my dad has some dementia, and I'm here in the middle of nowhere. How am I going to, fulfill the desire of my guru to spread Krishna consciousness? So, I took every opportunity. I started to make date and pecan balls, and handing them out to people. And somehow word got around, and somebody invited me to do a reflection group. And, the thing is it's really about desire and praying to Krishna for an idea. When the idea comes, you act on it. And when you act on it, you see Krishna's really guiding, and he's really reciprocating, and your faith grows. Listening to that voice inside of you, and prayer. I hope that helps. That's what I do.
Yes, Mother. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Any other thoughts? You've got 34 people here. There must be somebody who has a great, profound reflection. I wish I could see the whole gallery view. I don't think you'd all fit, right?
I think if you swing up to the top and probably hit on the arrow, you might.
Oh, you can see the deities. Somebody's there with the deities.
Yes, after the class, we are going to have a live arti of our deities from the temple. That way, devotees get to see the Lord, because we haven't seen them since the lockdown.
That's beautiful. Wow, your altars become really beautiful. Yeah.
And this is actually in the home of the head pujari, and she has a altar room just for their lordship. So that's where she's going to be performing the arti after the class is over. Are there any other questions or reflections that we can ask, Mataji?
Otherwise, I'll tell you a story. I will tell you a story.
We love stories.
But I want to make sure people have a question and a comment.
I'm going down to...
Thank you, Mataji, for your wonderful discourse. I just want to ask, I think, of course, we are householders. How can we implement the faith, in through our day-to-day activities? I think work, the faith. How can we implement, what way? Can you elaborate, on that?
Well, it's kind of like I was telling Anasuya, first of all, you have to start where you are. Because every place that you are, Krishna's put you there. If you're a householder, working a job, you have 10 kids, whatever it is you're doing, that is your Prabhu Data Desh. That's the place that you have to serve Krishna. No accidents that you are where you are. Don't think I got to go next door to do something. So start with accepting wherever you are as your place, personally tailored for you from Krishna. It's a personal gift. Then you look around in your life and see what kind of energy, resources you have that might be useful in spreading Krishna consciousness. And the reason why we do this is to save ourselves. It's not like we're evangelical Christians that we're going out to save the world. It's sadhana. We preach to save ourselves. You know, you're not going to save the whole world. And then we have this idea that we are, but we're really trying to save ourselves. So we preach to save ourselves, because if you don't preach, Maya will preach to you. If you don't preach to Maya, and Maya's in your head, right? So if you don't use your mind, body, and words in the service of Krishna, then Maya's going to be poking you this way. So look at your lifestyle, look at your finances, look at your needs in your family. I don't know, some people have small kids, some people have older kids. You know, if you have small kids and you know, your wife is at home and it's all you can do just to manage that, see how you can preach to your kids. Your kids become your gurukul. In fact, there's no better preaching than to raise Krishna conscious children. I kid you not. I mean, just think about it. If you have a child who's 1, 2, 3, 5 years old, like Prahlad Maharaj, and they haven't yet had a chance to be totally enamored by materialistic life, you have a wonderful opportunity to start to help them learn about Krishna, play games with them, you know, have fun with them. Those first 5 years are very formative. Whatever you do with those kids, those first 5 years are set in stone. So giving them a really strong impression of Krishna consciousness is super important. So maybe right now, your ministry, your service to Krishna is just raising your children in Krishna consciousness and having a Krishna conscious family. You know, that's big. That's big. To set an example for other people in the world that, you know, you can live in harmony with nature without destroying yourself and destroying others by, you know, a million video games and alcohol and cigarettes and all of that. That's already amazing that you do that. But you have to do whatever is in your place. And what really helps is to pray. I know we chant Hare Krishna and it's a prayer. Hare Krishna, please engage me in your service. Many people don't recognize it as a prayer. I come from a Christian background and we pray. You know, we were taught as children to pray. And we were taught, when you pray to God, first, don't ask him a bunch of stuff. Don't be doing business and asking, give me this and give me that. First, you thank him for everything. I mean, we were taught this as 6-year-old kids. First, you thank God for what he's given. Then you ask for blessings for everybody else. And then at the end, you might say, and please help me. Please help me. So as a devotee, we chant Hare Krishna, but we need to get to this understanding when we chant. It's not just a mantra meditation to control the mind. It's that. But underneath that is a prayer to engage me, show me. So when I'm in the hospital, particularly with homeless people that often are being kicked out of the hospital tomorrow because they need the bed and they're not paying for it because they have no health insurance. So they're getting out as soon as possible. And they're scared. And they're like, I don't know what to do. They're going to kick me out on the street and my leg is not healed. What to do? I tell them, I can't proselytize. It's a government hospital. But I can say to them, you know what? The universe is a benevolent place. And if you cry out for help, something will change. There will be something that changes. So I just teach them, cry for help. There's someone out there listening. And they want the best for you. And so then I leave them with that because I can't take them home with me. And when I come back the next day, by God, something has shifted. Someone has come forward, they'll take them home, or they figured it out. And so I would ask you, since you've asked me this question, practice praying to Krishna for an idea, because I don't know, I'm living in Virginia. I don't know, I'm not living in Harrisburg, and I'm certainly not living in your house or your family. But Krishna's living there, and he's in your heart, and he knows exactly what you can do to serve him in the most efficient way. So you have to ask Krishna. He will tell you, personally tell you. You ask for an idea, and then you stay open, and then understand that all the right doors, Krishna, please open all the right doors and close the wrong doors. So whatever's in front of you, an opening for you, and whatever people are saying to you, you have to think, okay, what is the message Krishna is having for me right now? Listen, what is Krishna? He's speaking to you all the time through the mouths of other people, through circumstances. It becomes you're moving into this mystical portal of reality, just like Prahlad was explaining to Hiranyakasipu. Krishna is everywhere. You can't see him because you don't approach him with submission. So try that and see if that curtain doesn't go off. Then you really start having faith. Oh my God, Krishna's talking to me right this minute. It's not like coming from the clouds. He's everywhere. So does that help at all?
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would love to talk to you after you do that and see what happens. Magic is going to happen to you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances.
Okay.
This is Dhiri Krishna Das. Wonderful to have you and hear from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
One question I have is, how important it is to come together and associate, especially in these times when we have really realized what do we mean by uncertain times. We used to hear from so many gurus and swamis about, material life is so uncertain, but I'm sure most of us have actually realized in the last couple of months. So how important it is to come together and be in a sangha and associate with devotees?
It is one of the 5 most important things to develop our love is association with other devotees. And it is so hard to do this on Zoom, but it's also very inspiring just to see you. I can see you right there. There you are, right there on the right there, dear Krishna Das. It's so wonderful to see you and to meet you. And Anasuya is there, and Prashant Seld and Manina or something, Mamina. We need each other so much. We cannot do this. The Christians talk about an ark. They have this image of Noah's ark, and that we all get on the ark and we float. We're floating on the ocean of material nature. And we are. This Hare Krishna movement is like an ark, a boat, and it really protects us from the storm. And it's going to get worse, probably, sadly to say. When you get information from some of the astrologers, we're going to absolutely need to probably maybe even live together. We may have to get a church garden or a temple garden. You're lucky you're living near Gitanagari farm. Good luck if you have petrol to get there by next December. I mean, astrologers are saying by November 20th, there's going to be a petrol crisis. So what about that? So we really need each other, and Prabhupada had a vision for us to not just see each other on Sundays for Sunday feast, but to work together somehow to solve our survival needs. So for now, people are working jobs and stuff, but there will come a time, and Prabhupada knew there would come a time, then those jobs will not work anymore. We see people have lost jobs, and there's now growing food shortage. There's going to be even more food shortage if there's no petrol, because we're depending on these trucks to drive from wherever they come from. And we need to start gardening. We need to have a community garden in Harrisburg. If you don't live together, but somehow we need to for our own survival. We want not just spiritual survival, but physical survival. So that's why he started Gitanagari and New Vrindavan. And that was his vision, that we should leave this dependency on unsustainable things. It's a big jump, I know, and it's scary. We haven't done the work we should have been doing for 50 years, and it's a really hard catch up. So yeah, it's really important. I said all that just to say, yes, that's really important. We need each other to survive. Yeah. What else?
Thank you, Mataji.
You're welcome.
Hare Krishna.
Are there any other questions before we go to Aarti? Any last minute reflections, any questions, any sharing, anything? It doesn't have to be a question.
And you can always call me up. If you have a question, just text me if you ever want to talk. I'm a professional chaplain, and I have a training course called Karuna Care for Devotees. I have 10 students from Australia and from Russia, from Estonia, from America, and it's absolutely amazing. And then we have a private Facebook page where people can look at the materials. But if you have an interest to talk about, what's going on with you, or you have a problem, you don't know who to talk to, honestly, you can give me my phone number,
Sure.
text me. I
Yes.
make time for you, This is my service to the ISKCON.
Yes, and I want to add to that if any, and it doesn't have to be spiritual, anything, whether it's personal, mental, biological, anything, anything that you want someone to talk to and help and just hear, please do not hesitate to contact Rambhoru Mataji. She's pretty good.
We're conditioned souls. We have problems sometimes. You know, we need to talk. And I mean, I talk to the trees sometimes. I hope Krishna's listening. You know, nobody cares, but anyway, Krishna's listening. But it's just helpful to talk about stuff, because otherwise it's just rolling around here. It needs to go out so we can look at it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely a good one. If there are no questions and no comments, I want to check with Prishta Mataji if she's ready with the live Aarti. Like I said, this is the after, I think it's about 2 months that the last time we saw them was on Gaur Purnima on March 9th. So it's almost 2 months that the devotees have not seen the Lordships live, except for pictures. So I wanted to check, Papana Prabhu, I think he's there.
Yes, we are ready, Mataji.
Ready? Okay, go ahead. It's all yours. And I'll get ready with mine downstairs with Lord and Shringadev.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. Ah, there. That's very cool. Prabhupada.
Dear Krishna Prabhu, I'm going to have you take it over for now while I go down and get ready. Okay, Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji.
Beautiful.
My video.
There it
Hare
is.
Krishna. I hope you had some darshan.
Prabhuji, there was a little glitch because of the YouTube video. So some of the devotees couldn't see the full view. So if you can just for a minute show everybody the video. Now it
Okay,
is
I
full
can
view.
give a
Yeah.
closer darshan now. This is Radha Sharad Bihari. This is Radha Madhav. And this is Gaur Nitai. Shri Bal Gopal Ji. This is the full altar view. Okay, Prabhu. And this is Srila Prabhupada.
Hari Bol. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Shri Shri Radha Sharad Bihari ki jai.
I hope the cameraman was okay.
Wonderful. Cameraman did wonderful job. Jai, 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 jai. Jagannath Baldev Subramanian ki jai. So, Vishakha.
On demand, any close-up?
Any demands anybody has for the close-up?
On demand close-up. Okay, going, gone. Okay, should I turn off?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hari Bol.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
कौन सी दिखा रहा है? विश्व
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimha.
La 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 la
Adbhuta Shringam Hiranyakashipu Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare
Jaya Narasimha Jaya Narasimha Jaya
Thank you, Prabhuji, for wonderful darshan. Thank you. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now we got the beautiful view of
Yeah.
Radha Shadbihar and all the deities live through Zoom. And Lord Narasimhadev also live through Zoom. And before we end this call, there is one request if we all could chant the Sringa Kavacham prayer. Prabhu, do you have that ready?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And I think it takes about 5 minutes to actually go through that, and we can quickly chant the Narasimha Kavacham prayer. Then from there, we will break our fast.
कवचम् वक्ष्ये प्रह्लादेनोदितम् पुरा सर्वरक्षाकरम् पुण्यम् सर्वोपद्रवनाशनम् सर्वसम्पत्करम् चैव स्वर्गमोक्षप्रदायकम् ध्यात्वा नृसिंहम् देवेशम् हेमसिंहासनस्थितम् विवृतास्यम् त्रिनयनम् शरदिन्दुसमप्रभम् लक्ष्म्यालिङ्गितवामाङ्गम् विभूतिभिरुपाश्रितम् चतुर्भुजम् कोमलाङ्गम् स्वर्णकुण्डलशोभितम् श्रिया सुशोभितो रस्कम् रत्नकेयूरमुद्रितम् तप्तकाञ्चन निर्मलवाससम् इन्द्रादिसुरमौलिष्टः स्फुरन्माणिक्यदीप्तिभिः विराजितपदद्वन्द्वम् शङ्खचक्रादिहेतिभिः गरुत्मदा च विनयात् स्तूयमानम् मुदान्वितम् स्वहृत्कमलसंवासम् कृत्वा तु कवचम् पठेत् नृसिंहो मे शिरः पातु लोकरक्षात्मसम्भवः सर्वगोपीस्तम्भवासः पालम् मे रक्षतु ध्वनिम् नृसिंहो मे दृशौ पातु सोमसूर्याग्निलोचनः स्मृतिम् मे पातुर्हरि मुनिवर्यास्तुतिप्रियः नासा मे सिंहनासस्तु मुखम् लक्ष्मीमुखप्रियः सर्वविद्याधिपः पातो नृसिंहो रसनाम् मम वक्त्रम् पाद्विन्दुवदनः सदा प्रह्लादवन्दितः नृसिंहः पातु मे कण्ठम् स्कन्धौ भूभरणान्तकृत् दिव्यास्त्रशोभितभुजो नृसिंहः पातु मे भुजौ करौ मे देववरदो नृसिंहः पातु सर्वतः हृदयम् योगिसाध्यश्च निवासम् पातु मे हरिः मध्यं पातु हिरण्याक्ष वक्षकुक्षिविदारणः नाभिं मे पातु हरिः स्वनाभि ब्रह्म संस्तुतः ब्रह्माण्डकोटयः कट्यां यस्यासौ पातु मे कटिम् गुह्यं मे पातु गुह्यानां मन्त्राणां गुह्यरूपदृक् ऊरो मनोभवः पातु जानुनी नररूपदृक् जङ्घे पातु धरा भारा हर्ता योऽसौ नृकेशरी सुरराज्यप्रदः पातु पादौ मे नृहरीश्वरः सहस्रशीर्षा पुरुषः पातु मे सर्वशस्तनुम् महोग्रः पूर्वतः पातु महावीराग्रजोऽग्नितः महाविष्णुर्दक्षिणे तु महाज्वालस्तु नैऋतौ पश्चिमे पातु सर्वेषो दिशि मे सर्वतोमुखः नरसिंहः पातु वायव्यां सौम्या भीषणविग्रहः ईशान्यां पातु भद्रो मे सर्वमङ्गलदायकः संसारभयतः पातु मृत्योर्मृत्युर्नृकेशरी इदं नरसिंहकवचं प्रह्लादमुखमण्डितम् भक्तिमान् यः पठे नित्यं सर्वपापैः प्रमुच्यते पुत्रवान् धनवान् लोके दीर्घायुरुपजायते यं यं कामयते कामं तं तं प्राप्नोत्यसंशयम् सर्वत्र जयमाप्नोति सर्वत्र विजयी भवेत् भूम्यन्तरिक्षदिव्यानां ग्रहाणां विनिवारणम् वृश्चिकोरगसम्भूत विशापहरणं परम् ब्रह्मराक्षसयक्षाणां दूरोत्सारणकारणम् मूर्जे वा तालपत्रे वा कवचं लिखितं शुभम् करमूले धृतं येन सिद्ध्येयुः कर्मसिद्धयः देवासुरमनुष्येषु स्वं स्वं एव जयं लभेत् एकसन्ध्यं त्रिसन्ध्यं वा यः पठे नियतो नरः सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्यं मुक्तिं च विन्दति 32 सहस्राणि पठे शुद्धात्मविद्नृभिः कवचस्यास्य मन्त्रस्य मन्त्रसिद्धिः प्रजायते अनेन मन्त्रराजेन कृत्वा भस्माभिमन्त्रणम् तिलकं बिभ्र्यान्यस्तु तस्य ग्रहभयं हरेत् त्रिवारं जपमानस्तु दत्तं भार्याभिमन्त्र्य च प्राशयेद्यं नरं मन्त्रं नृसिंहध्यानमाचरेत् तस्य रोगाः प्रणश्यन्ति ये च स्युः कुक्षिसम्भवाः किमत्र बहुनोक्तेन नृसिंहः सदृशो भवेत् मनसा चिन्तितं यत्तु सतच्चाप्नोत्यसंशयम् गर्जन्तं गर्जयन्तं निजभुजपटलं स्फोटयन्तं हरन्तं दीप्यन्तं तापयन्तं दिवि भुवि संक्षेपयन्तं क्षिपन्तं क्रन्दन्तं रोषयन्तं दिशि दिशि सततं संहरन्तं हरन्तं वीक्षन्तं घूर्णयन्तं करनिकरशतैर्दिव्यसिंहं नमामि इति श्रीब्रह्माण्डपुराणे प्रह्लादोक्तं श्रीनरसिंहकवचं सम्पूर्णम्.
Hare Krishna. I think that this has been the nicest and the sweetest and the longest program we've ever had on Zoom.
Shrikant Prabhu, thank you to Shrikant Prabhu.
Thank you, Shrikant Prabhu, for suggesting that. Yes. Thank you, Dear Krishna Prabhu, for organizing all the background stuff. And we thank all the devotees for joining us this evening. And we hope all of you enjoyed as much as we did to really have this program on Zoom. And again, Mother Rambhoru, thank you so much. It's always wonderful to hear from you. It's always wonderful to talk to you. I look forward to seeing you again. I don't know when, but I enjoyed our times together last year. But we definitely would love to have you in our future Zoom classes, whenever, however long it goes on. We want to remind devotees that we have Bhakti Marg Swami giving class this coming Sunday. Lessons from Queen Kunti. Yes, and so we encourage devotees to please join us. And until then, we are ready to break our fast. It's dusk right now. So thank you, devotees, and happy Narasimha Chaturdasi.
Haribo.
Thank you.
Haribo.
Thank you. Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.